It's March 3rd, 2024, 10:38 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm James Barratt in Charlotte. I've got Joseph Navin with me, and we are counting down 15 minutes into the launch of NASA's SpaceX Crew-8 from Kennedy Space Center in Florida up to the International Space Station. You're looking live at that historic launch pad. Right there, you can see they've begun and are in process, Joseph, of filling it with the fuel. So we'll let people know if they're seeing that white smoke, it's steam. That's completely normal. And we have a near perfect weather conditions. You can see those underneath Joseph and I here on the screen. Joseph, it's one of the best nights they've had so far to launch, as they postponed last night because of weather. So things looking pretty good. What are you keeping an eye
on? Honestly, more of a technical thing I'm keeping an eye on. Weather-wise, it looked like they originally they have a set of criteria for launch escape or emergency protocols. A lot of those include precipitation rules and anvil cloud rules, and those have seemed to be less and less of a concern as the count has went on. It was more earlier, but not as much now.
Yeah, in about 4 minutes, we're expected to hear from Launch Control an update, a technical update, and that'll be about the T-minus 10-minute mark until this launch. If for those of you who haven't joined us here in the Carolina Weather Group before, or haven't seen one of these Crew-8 launches, matter of fact, it's been 5 years since we did the first demo flight, Joseph, and here we are again now watching this 9th crew, because we did have the demo 2 with 2 crew members aboard. So this is the 9th time NASA and SpaceX have worked together to take crews up to the International Space Station. 3 Americans and 1 Russian cosmonaut here. And it's just, it's really spectacular to see. You can see here the shot from the press site and the countdown clock there as we continue to await that technical update coming our way in about 3 minutes. Joseph, have you had the opportunity to see one of these SpaceX launches in person?
Yes and no. I've been to 2 other rocket launches. But I've seen, I think I believe it was Crew 2 from here in Elon. Sometimes if you get the certain weather conditions and lighting lines up, you can see the second stage flight from here in central North Carolina. It just depends on if you like within an hour of sunrise or sunset, and it makes a really good show with the illumination of the plume. But not this time of day, but it does provide a good show to watch.
Yeah, we get that sometimes also with NASA Wallops out of Virginia, closer you are to the coast, Elon, in a pretty good spot to see that. I haven't caught one of those here from Charlotte. A year ago, I was at the NASA social event for Crew 6, and we were actually broadcasting live from that press site. And we made it all the way to T-minus like 2 minutes before they scrubbed. I didn't get to see that launch in person because unfortunately I did have to make my way back here to North Carolina. But later in the summer last year, I got to see a resupply mission, which is a similar rocket and a similar launch, just without the humans aboard. And I got to watch that from Melbourne Beach, just south of Cocoa Beach. And I mean, it was absolutely everything they said it would be. Really bright, like having a sun in the sky at night. And then you could feel it. You could feel that sound wave hit you so late after seeing it. The way the light and the sound was delayed was absolutely incredible. So I hope you get to check one of these out in person one day, Joseph.
No, I mean, I was in Wallops in 2019 and early 2020. 2019 was the main launch, and we were 2 miles on the press site. And it's just a very interesting that location is even closer than Kennedy allows. And it is almost instantaneous when you hear the ignition to when you hear it. And it is overwhelming, but a great feeling. So
Dragon
yeah, I look forward to making it to Wallops. Let's listen into Launch Control and an update on the issue they've been tracking.
All right. We are confident that we understand the issue and we can still fly the whole mission safely. We're comfortable proceeding because the condition is bounding by existing analysis, as already mentioned. Additionally, we expect the gap created by this crack in the seal to close as the material will swell with reentry heating. And finally, it's on the lower heating side of the vehicle during reentry. The engineering team here is comfortable proceeding. How copy?
Dragon copy.
Okay. With that, Crew 8, confirmed displays are configured for launch.
SpaceX Dragon displays are configured for launch. Crew-7, this is Crew-8. We're coming for you. It's time for Crew-8 to relieve you of the watch onto the International Space Station. SpaceX Dragon, we are ready for you to cast off the strongback and launch Dragon Endeavour on its 5th voyage.
Joseph, do you know any more about the issue that they've been tracking here? It sounds like some sort of sealant or seal that they've been monitoring.
Well, first of all, this is the 5th flight of this. You mentioned earlier it was
Crew-8.
The Crew-1, Crew-2 flight. This is the exact same capsule that was used there. So this is the fleet leader for the capsule. So that's also why I was listening to it. I don't think it's related, but it is just the oldest and most used Crew Dragon they're using. But the seal seems to be on the hatch, and they always take photos every time they close it and everything, just to make sure everything's all right. And they always review it before launch. And they noticed a crack on the seal. And so that's obviously a big concern if there would be a significant crack. But it seems that it's on the side of the spacecraft that receives less of the heating than when it comes back in for re-entry. So that was their main concern, but it seems like it's within tolerances. So
I did notice after they had closed the seal earlier tonight that they put some harnesses on and seemed to be really closely examining the side of the spacecraft. And I couldn't remember for the life of me whether that was routine or not. It caught my attention.
No, that's usually the shuttle program did a very similar thing. The area when they walk in the spacecraft is basically a sort of clean room for the crew.
Yep.
And it has to be sealed right against the edge of the Crew Dragon. And they have to obviously release it back a little bit before they retract the entire arm. And so that breakdown period is when you see them have the vest harnesses to take it down, because it's a fairly significant drop all the way down. So that's usually what it is. But if you saw them taking photos and looking at the hatch while they were closing it, that's when they were checking it out, likely.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you can actually see in the live pictures on the left side of your screen, it's braced up by an arm that is kind of, bracing it there. And the arm has since retracted that they took to get into Dragon. Let's take a look back here as we are now T-minus just under 8 minutes. This was earlier tonight as the 3 astronauts and cosmonaut came out and said their last goodbyes to their family, their friends, and some of the press who have been gathering. This is the astronaut walkout. And Joseph, I always love watching this because this was really the first time in the broadcast that you get to see them smile and wave and get really excited. I mean, you do get shots in the NASA TV broadcast earlier in the checkout facility, but this just has such a ceremony, festive feeling. It's late. I've been up too long with a newborn, but you could really kind of soak in all that emotion as they prepare then to make this drive out to the launch pad.
Yeah, I mean it's a tradition that doorway that every single crew that NASA has launched since Apollo 7 in the 60s has went through that door. So there's just a lot of tradition that goes along with that. So.
Yeah, when I had the chance to go down to Kennedy Space Center and get that all-access tour with the NASA social event last year, that's exactly how I felt about it too, was that everything there was built on legacy, built on history, and taking us into the future, in part thanks to the SpaceX private-public partnership with NASA and other companies like we've seen recently with Intuitive Machines. Yeah,
I mean, it's a big shift that's happened since about early 2010s, and it's finally taken its stride over the last 4 or 5 years with SpaceX, and it's been so far it's been a really good partnership between both the commercial and the government agencies. So
here they were earlier tonight. And you'll see their chairs here recline as they will then transition from having climbed in at the seats at this angle to then leaning on their back. And that will be the position that they will remain in here during the launch that we're expecting now in just under 6 minutes. You'll see it live right here on the Carolina Weather Group. Join us, comment in the conversation, ask your questions wherever you are tonight. We want to hear your excitement. We want to help you learn as best as we can teach you. So if you're able to join us in commenting on YouTube, Facebook, X, or Twitch, we welcome that into our conversation here tonight. So that was a look back at some of the activities that have happened over the course of the last 4 hours, as these folks now are about 5 minutes away from the ride of their life, Joseph. And take a look at that beauty on the launch pad as we await another communications update coming our way in just a moment from Kennedy Space Center.
Yeah. While we're waiting about 20, 30 seconds, you'll see the support bracket that is holding the rocket up will retract about a couple degrees. So that's something you should see about T-minus 4 minutes and 30 around then. So keep an eye out for that as well.
Dragon is in configured for terminal count. Falcon 9 tanks pressurizing for strong back retract.
And then you can hear them preparing exactly for what Joseph has just described. And we'll wait to show you that to you here as best we can.
And soon after liftoff, that thing will retract fully back.
Strong back retract has started.
And there it goes. Slowly. And that strong back is part of the system that is used to fuel the rocket, which is why you see all the condensation, not smoke, that is emanating from that area of the rocket as well.
Yeah, that always concerns me. I always expect it. I know it's normal, but just seeing it always makes me hesitate and go, is that normal? Okay, yeah, it is.
Yeah, Florida is, obviously very humid, so that's why it appears a lot more, but sometimes it's very subtle. That's kind of a cool thing, how to dictate what the weather's like when you're not there, is how much condensation's coming off of it. If it's really dry out, there really won't be much, but
yeah, so we can see tonight on satellite and radar there at the bottom of the screen. It's not crystal clear. It's fairly good. 90% chance of favorable weather is the best we've had, and that's our latest launch weather conditions here. A couple showers out there off the coast. And, they have to track the weather not only at Kennedy Space Center and during their ascent, but also during a descent area in case they were to have to come back down. And we know that SpaceX is going to try to bring those rocket boosters back down too. So all of those are considerations.
Yeah, definitely. And you can see the strong back is also just retracting. It's getting more visible. But yeah, there's, SpaceX also just pushed the recovery weather a little bit more for their booster.
Stage 1 lands complete.
And that means that the liquid oxygen loading has just been complete on the Falcon 9. So.
Joseph mentioned earlier, this is the 5th time this capsule has gone up. It's 5 years since SpaceX did their demo 1 with no humans aboard. Right. And, I remember so well.
It's on internal power.
The demo 2, which came right during the midst of that pandemic, and how much that was just an inspirational highlight in that such dark year. To see the furthering of the space program there in 2020, that sticks out very well in my memory.
I mean, that was a long time coming for people that have been following spaceflight. That mission had a lot of challenges going up the year and a half prior to it. A lot of technical issues, not too many, but some big long lead items that they were really working towards that. And that was just a big moment when they were able to get off the ground. It had been 9 years since they've been able to fly from that pad, the exact same pad, and 2011 had the Space Shuttle Atlantis
Stage 2
launch.
lock load complete.
Stage 2 for liquid oxygen is done. But it was a big moment because we were relying on Russian rockets from Baikonur and Kazakhstan to launch. And so this was, bringing it kind of back to...
Dragon is in auto idle.
Okay. And that was their first time, just launching from Kennedy Space Center. So, in that long of a period. So.
And a reminder to folks that today's destination here is the International Space Station, a program that is international, a big science laboratory that still has a few more years left in its lifespan, but it's all about getting us human spaceflight further and further into space. And NASA's Artemis program will get us to the moon in the years to come, and that will teach us how to live for a long time out there in space, with the idea of someday making it out to Mars. And those are science experiments and knowledge all being obtained through these missions. These are all like stepping stones to get us onto the moon and to Mars.
Now controlling.
And
Dragon is in countdown.
Now the computers on the Falcon 9 are now controlling the rest of the countdown. Instead, here's T0.
Yeah, less than a minute to go here.
Go for launch.
Dragon copies. Go for launch.
The launch of NASA SpaceX Crew-8 from Kennedy Space Center. You'll see it live here in just moments as these 4 humans prepare to start 6 months in space aboard the International Space Station.
15 seconds.
Joseph, let's listen into the count.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Engines full power. And liftoff of NASA Crew-8. Go Falcon, go SpaceX, and go NASA.
Vehicles pitching
One
downrange.
Alpha.
Copy, 1 Alpha.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Beautiful sight from the top of the VAB.
That 1 Alpha is the abort rate.
Just like we were talking about, it's like having a sun in the night sky here over the Space Coast
Nominal
tonight.
power and telemetry.
Stage 1 throttle down.
And right now you have 9 Merlin 1D engine on the first stage, throttling through for the first stage burn, operating on both liquid oxygen and
Falcon
kerosene.
9 is supersonic.
Or modified kerosene.
Stage 1
Max
throttle
Q.
up.
One Bravo.
That's the second
Copy, 1
abort
Bravo.
criteria.
90 seconds into flight.
As it continues to ascend, it will carefully
Effect still
hug
has
the
started.
eastern seaboard side of the United States as it goes up.
Joseph, you were talking earlier about seeing launches from Elon. I don't think we can see this one necessarily tonight from the Carolinas, but certainly a show all along the east coast of Florida.
Definitely. If it's down there, if it's right about this point, they can see it with their naked eye very visibly. Yeah, and as you see here, the plume is expanding as the it gets higher in the Earth's atmosphere. And there's less air to push it together. And we're just approaching first stage
Stage 1
shutdown.
throttle down.
And shut down.
Nico.
Stage separation confirmed.
As he said, stage separation. You can see the Merlin vacuum engine start up as it is right now.
2 Alpha.
Copy, 2 Alpha.
As this occurs, the first stage as it is igniting, will reorient itself for a landing back on land at LZ-1 or LZ-2, one of the two, back at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. While the crew on Endeavour and the second stage will continue to ascend along the eastern seaboard.
So, Joseph, they're going to try to land on the coast tonight, actually back on land as opposed to one of their drone ships tonight?
Yes, it should be, unless something has changed. In the past, they used to land on the barge for these crew missions, but as of late, they have moved them back to landing zone landings. But that is a relatively new change.
I know SpaceX has just been cranking out these launches when you consider their Starlink launches, and I'm sure getting that back on land sooner than having to bring it all the way back in from the barge probably helps that turnaround.
Trajectory nominal.
Yeah, also there's a lot of these SpaceX Starlink missions have also been helping them increase margin comfortability in doing this, and other knowledge about their launch vehicle. So that's also allowed them just to push the envelope of what's possible. The views are really good when it comes back to laying on land. So it should be a good show if that is indeed the case.
I hope we'll get to see it probably on the left-hand side of our screen as we continue to watch the ascent on the right-hand side of our screen here live in the Carolina Weather Group.
Yeah. Right now is about the time it would be passing the Carolinas way off the coast. It is cloudy right now, and it obviously is dark, but this would be about the time it would be passing right by us. So
A brief look there at the weather satellite as we continue to watch here, about 5 minutes into flight.
Dragon SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
Dragon.
I'm hoping to make it down there for a crewed launch sooner rather than later, because the excitement around it is so exciting. And the thing I love so much about it, Joseph, is the way that these international groups who might have differences elsewhere come together around this space and science.
I mean, it's been a tradition that's been going on, especially since the start of the International Space Station program back in, I believe, 1998. I was not alive at the time, but just a couple years before I was born. But it's been a tradition ever since the first
Dragon SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
Ever since the first ISS mission. They've had at least one Russian and one American. So, and as you can see on the left screen, is that is an onboard camera of the Falcon 9 first stage. You can actually see the coast of Florida approaching as it is descending towards the landing zone at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, rather. That's its re-entry burn. It actually uses the engines as a heat shield, and the plume from the engines to safeguard it from the intense plasma of re-entry.
Yeah, when you look at this angle, it always looks like it's blasting off, but really it's coming down using that engine. It's kind of messes with your mind a little bit.
All those sparks are the heating you are seeing on the booster. You can kind of see got a little bit of wind buffer.
Dragon SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
So those are the coast lights right there. You can see Cape Canaveral, you can see the mainland, if I'm not mistaken.
No, that is it. You can see Merritt Island. You can probably see Cocoa Beach in the distance.
South is like the top of that left box.
Correct.
So much history out there on that land, going back
This
to our
is the
earliest
landing burn starting right here. It's going to land on one of two old launch pads that have been flattened to create these nice circular landing zones right here. The sonic booms are when it
Stage
comes
2
down.
FTS is safed.
I think it has successfully landed.
So it looks like.
I think that is this picture right here. It's a little dark, but dark is good.
That's what they want. We don't want any more light. Sometimes it will happen. Some of the residual thrust does come out the engines on some flights when they just land, but that usually subsides relatively quickly. And right now on the center of your screen, you can see the Merlin MVAC engine. That's the vacuum optimized Merlin engine, continuing to
Stage 2 in terminal guidance.
throttle upwards the crew and the capsule Endeavour up to orbit, glowing literally almost red hot.
And if I'm not mistaken, they'll be in orbit for about 24 hours trying to catch back up at the International Space Station.
Correct. Oh, and Shannon, that is Shannon, Ireland. That is their abort criteria. So it goes all the way from the Cape, past the Carolinas, and all the way across the Atlantic to Shannon, Ireland. That's all their abort criteria. And they should be hitting orbit in just a second here, if not already.
Dragon SpaceX, nominal orbit insertion.
That's the call they want to hear. I mean, they are in normal orbit and preparing to separate from the second stage. And the abort system has disarmed, meaning that they're basically past the main threat of any issues of launch. And they should be feeling 0G conditions at the moment.
Do you happen to know what zero-G indicator they brought with them?
It was a sloth. There was a name for it, but I do not remember, but it was a sloth, I believe. That's actually a tradition that started with the Soyuz, Russian Soyuz. That was their thing for a long time. We kind of made our own version of that. So,
I mean, I really enjoy it when you see something floating in the cabin, indicating that there's no gravity, but it's always tends to be something cute and cuddly. And I think they did it with Snoopy during Artemis, and I'm sure we'll be seeing more of that beagle in space.
yeah, actually, you can see the three astronauts and one cosmonaut. The capsule was actually designed for 7 people originally. So there's lots of good space in there below them where they put all their equipment. But in the case of emergency, they probably could fit around 7 people in there. So it is a little bit bigger than this fisheye camera lens kind of shows, but it's a fairly decent sized capsule size.
I mean, it was just a year ago that we thought they were going to have to be squeezing 6 or 7 people in one of these to get them back down when the Russians were having problems with their pressurization of their modules up there on the International Space Station. So that's a scenario that we have discussed and could discuss again in the future.
Unfortunately, there actually has been indications that there is continuing to be a leak as of the last week or so. It's nothing major, but it is slowly leaking out of what is known as the Zvezda control module on the Russian segment. So that is something they're still kind of to stay out of politics. There's a lot of politics going into that as well, but causing a little bit of tension between both NASA and Roscosmos. But as of now, it's not a problem.
I just recently started watching Apple TV's For All Mankind, which I understand is an alternate reality, but I'm just sucked into that show, and my wife calls it the space soap opera because every time she walks into the room, they're just arguing about something. But like in space.
Usually it's pretty calm, but we don't, obviously there's no cameras all the time, so who knows?
Yeah. Joseph, does this ever get old watching one of these?
Sometimes from the Starlink launches, but not this. I was following a lot of the development for this, and then right now you can see the Crew Dragon is separated from the second stage. This camera is looking from the top of the stage at the Crew Dragon. You can see what's known as the trunk, and it's fairly empty. But the trunk is like a trunk on an SUV.
Dragon,
It can handle small payloads.
Dragon, SpaceX, this is your launch chief engineer.
Go ahead.
Welcome to orbit. It truly is our greatest honor for you to trust us to launch you into space. It's been a pleasure working with you, and we trust that all the science and work you're about to do will continue to move humanity further towards the stars. We hope you enjoyed the ride, and thank you for flying on Falcon 9. Please send our regards to Crew 7, and make sure to remind them you just wanted to be fashionably late. I'll hand it off to the launch director for a few words.
Dragon LD, hope the ride was as awesome as a Cybertruck. Have a safe journey to the space station, and we look forward to seeing you when you get home. Thank you for flying SpaceX.
You can see the Drago thruster is firing as it orients itself after separation. You have the top hatch on the top of the spacecraft open.
Oh my goodness, what an incredible ride to orbit. I'm both glad and not glad that you don't have a copy of our ICS. The cheers the whole way up were incredible. A big thank you to SpaceX for incredible instructors. Tyler, I'm talking to you and your team right now. Incredible instructors, engineers, and operators. They're the reason we are now safely in orbit. A thank you to NASA, Roscosmos, CSA, ESA, JAXA, who work together to make the International Space Station work for us all. And, of course, big thank you to my family, friends, and mentors who are the reason we're here today. Over to you, Mike.
Yeah, hey, Earth, just to let you know, it's kind of like a roller coaster ride with a bunch of really excited teenagers. Just want to mention the NASA community is just a really warm but steely-eyed family that does amazing things, and it kind of hugs you, but it pushes you into the unknown while watching your back. It's really been an incredible place for me to grow over these past 30-plus years, and now I'm really honored to fly this new generation spaceship with this new generation crew. Thanks to my own family for tolerating my otherworldly habits. Thanks to NASA for being the backbone of exploration that we are. And just thanks so much to our friends and colleagues at SpaceX for the awesome ride. It's great to be back in space again.
And I would like to second Mike and Matt's words. I'm super excited to be here, and I need to hear. And the words that come to my mind is that I'm so grateful and I'm thankful for everyone who got us to this point. There's no way we would have been able to do this without all the people, from all the instructors, from all the people supporting on the ground, to the folks in the kitchen who kept us fed, and Liz out at SpaceX. I'm so grateful for everyone, and I just want to give a big thanks to my family and friends who came from all over the world to see this. Thank you for supporting me through all the days of waiting to get to this point. Thank you for everything, and I want to give a quick shout out to my sisters who couldn't make it, Brenda and Patty. And then I'd also want to give a nod to Syracuse, who supported me through everything. And I am in a New York state of mind right now. It is amazing. Thank you for everything.
Warm greetings to everyone from the orbit. I would like to express huge gratitude to Roscosmos, NASA, ESA, JAXA teams, and all who took part in preparation and implementation. A separate shout out to my family and friends. Thank you for your support. My sons, Serежа, Vlad, Sasha, be good. Кузбасс от Москвы. See you soon. Всех тепло приветствую с орбиты. Выражаю огромную благодарность коллективу Роскосмоса, НАСА и САДЖАКСа и всем без исключения причастным к подготовке и реализации нашего полета. Отдельный привет передаю своей семье и близким. Спасибо вам за поддержку. Сыновьям Сережа, Влад, Саша, будьте молодцами. Кузбасс, Москвы, до встречи.
I'm expecting a
Dragon,
return
we copied
communication.
all, and we see the vehicle chasing down the International Space Station on orbit. Nose cone opening is in progress. We saw nominal dehumidifier activation and service section Draco checkouts. With that, your go to raise visors. And I've got one final note. We have a tradition on board this spacecraft for its travelers to bring a small token, a zero-G indicator, if you will, to clearly demonstrate the free-floating nature of objects traveling in orbit around the Earth. And I wonder if you've brought anything fitting that description.
Well, you should ask. Oh, man. So per tradition, we, of course, have a zero-G indicator. It's already been deployed. The significance of our zero-G indicator is not actually what it is, but who chose it. Many parents around the world have jobs that take them away from their children and families for long periods of time to serve their communities, their country, and the world. Military families are a prime example, but many jobs, including our own, share this trait. The choice of the zero-G indicator was given to my daughters to represent the sacrifice that children everywhere make while their parents are serving away from home. We chose a stuffed family dog, and she is free-floating here today.
I don't see any live video from inside the capsule right now to see
That
that zero-G indicator.
Matt, we
That
copied all. Good
moving
words.
thing right now is the
I
hatch
think we
on
don't have
the
video inside the
top
capsule.
of the
We'll
spacecraft
have to come
actually
back to
opening
you in a
up.
minute for a video of that stuffed
It was
dog.
essential for the flight. It allows a lot of the star trackers. What it's its version of like a not GPS, but so for tracking itself, like a compass, uses stars to kind of know where it is, and also the hatch to connect it with the space station later. So that hatch has to open, and there's thrusters there as well. So that's a big that's the last major milestone of the flight, and it looks like that has gone off without a hitch. So.
Just thinking about what you said, the fact that they navigate still using the stars, that's just incredible to think about because, and there's our zero-G indicator. It's an Earth with hands and feet.
That was the one on the Crew-1 mission.
Oh, okay. I see. I'm glad you're here, Joseph. Maybe you should I'm going to just leave Joseph in charge.
No, that was the Crew-1 mission. Way back, They just thought about 5
Well,
years
that makes
ago.
sense because there's no people on board, just the test dummies.
It was a mannequin that showed the suit, and that was the first time I really saw the suit after. Well, the first time was the Tesla Roadster on the Falcon Heavy, but this was the second main high fidelity one we actually saw. So that was a big moment in of itself 5 years ago.
Where is that Roadster right about now?
It's in solar orbit. It's in solar orbit, doing something. Probably not red anymore if I had to bet any money, but
you're probably right. Well, hopefully we'll get a picture of the zero indicator. If not here in the next few minutes, then we'll get it up on social. But what I was starting to say was your comment about navigating using the stars to check your location. That is such a legacy way of doing it. If you think about the earliest navigation at sea, and it's still probably the most precise and safest way to absolutely check where you are at any given time.
Definitely. I mean, it's also a lot of the computers use that as well. But I mean, we also know where they are when they're in low Earth orbit because they're around the Earth, and we can track them there are telescopes and stuff from Earth. But most importantly, there's a TDRS, which is their data relay satellites, which are like the GPS and communication bases of space for them. But if all else fails, you have the star trackers as well. So it is one of the when you go outside of the Earth's atmosphere, not atmosphere orbit, and go around the moon or Mars, star trackers are a lot more important.
All right, I'm going to stand by for at least one more communication here from SpaceX up to Dragon regarding their nose cone. Should be coming our way here in just a moment on the feed.
And that there is their Mission Control Center in Hawthorne, California.
Dragon, SpaceX, we see a nominal nose cone opening, TCS, and forward bulkhead Draco checkouts, and we see an upcoming burn in 23 minutes, 2-3.
And starts the slow journey to the ISS using their Draco thrusters, a series of little small burns that will eventually lead them to the U.S. orbiting segment of the ISS in a day or so.
Well, they have hopefully a little rest up ahead of them too. I know they've had to change their sleep patterns in order to accommodate this travel and this launch at this late night hour here on the East Coast, and then eventually life at the International Space Station over on UTC time. We're all going to get a little bit of a sleep change next weekend when we change back the clocks.
Good chance to check your smoke detectors as well this time of year.
That's so true. And your NOAA weather radios. Make sure you have enough batteries in those. Well, Joseph, I'm really glad you were here to walk us through this launch of NASA SpaceX Crew-8 tonight.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
And for those of you looking for more things to watch on this late Sunday night, check out my trip to Kennedy Space Center on our YouTube channel right now. Carolina Weather Group takes you behind the scenes. We go inside the VAB. We go inside a crawler. We go inside some of the experiments happening on the International Space Station. If you're growing hydroponic plants in your house right now, then you're really going to want to check out what NASA's doing, because it's some really cool stuff that someday, Joseph, is going to take us to the moon and to Mars.
The moon sooner than it's coming up. We have the crew soon. TM
soon by space standards. All right, we'll stand by one more second. I can hear coming down the pipeline another communication from Hawthorne, so let's listen in before we go.
Dragon, SpaceX, cabin environment looks good for suit doffing, and we'll take the camera external here in just a sec. Your go for 4.012 suit doffing.
Dragon, copy the go, 4.012 suit doffing.
Now they can end their time in their spacesuits. They can get back into their normal clothes, back into standard SpaceX and NASA issued flight suits. So.
Well, they'll get a little R&R. We'll get a little bit of R&R. We invite you to stay subscribed. Part 2 of the Carolina Weather Group's trip to Texas for the National Storm Chaser Summit is coming your way this Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, when our weekly podcast
our exterior
drops right here on YouTube or wherever it is you listen to podcasts.
Copy external.
Enjoy a nice day of nice weather next day or so until Wednesday.
Yes, that is so true. All right, Joseph, good to see you.
Thank you so much. You guys have a good night.
All right, bye-bye, everybody.